Well, hello folks. The views and opinion of this video are of my own. Other views and opinions may vary. This is going to be about the house on the rock. I don't have any photos. We did go to the house on the rock, and what they do is when you buy tickets for this, you either have section 1, section 2, or section 3 that you can purchase, and they do go through and stamp holes in each one of these when you go through each section. So again, these views and opinions are of my own. Others may vary.
Beautiful southwest Wisconsin, shaped by the subtle hand of wind and water. What you see here in Wyoming Valley of Iowa County is a land of breathtaking natural wonders, filled with the magic that dreams are made of. It was here, back in the early 1940s, where Wisconsin native Alex Jordan had a towering goal: to build a retreat as awe-inspiring as the view from the rock upon which the house on the rock would eventually be built. For more than 60 years, the house on the rock has been a majestic work in progress. Alex Jordan was drawn to a curious outcropping in the valley called Deer Shelter Rock. He realized that this lofty haven would hold a distinctive place in his life, a place where he could sculpt and create. Jordan's imaginative mind held the only blueprint. Alex's tireless efforts in building his house on the rock made for local legend. It's said that he carried the masonry stone up the rock in wicker baskets strapped to his back. And as a result, Jordan became the architect of his own dream. Referencing from poet Don Blanding's Vagabond's House, an early interpretation of Alex Jordan and his dream of the house on the rock still echoes off the granite wall. His adaptation goes like this:
When I have a house, as I sometimes may, I'll suit my dream in every way. It won't be correct or in period style, but oh, I've thought for a long, long while of all the corners and all the nooks, of all the bookshelves and all the books. And there were shadows of all I've planned to have a magnificent concert grand, with polished wood and ivory keys for wild discordant rhapsodies. I will have a window seat broad and deep where I can sprawl to read and sleep. One long thin room will hang in space, and at the end there will be a place for a kindly saint as a figurehead to turn away the thin height's dread.
Okay, so this is where I cut it. Now, you have to understand, this is a very, very old home. This guy did not go off of any blueprints as far as building this house. And the first section of the home, which is supposed to be an area that he did not use very much at all, it's got a cooking area, it's got a dining area, there's a real nice fireplace, and then you go in a little bit further and then you would see a kind of like a lounging area. Now, the video makes these areas look pretty big, all right, and very bright. Now, when you first go into it, it's very dark in this thing, and a lot of the tour is very, very dark. Now, the place is old, yes. The place is very dusty, okay? So there is, if you have breathing problems, you might want to be careful with this. There is a lot of dust in the place. It needs a very, very good going over as far as, you know, some type of cleaning, dusting. Now, as I said, the first part of the house is an area that he did not use very much. And the guide, before you go in, that checks your tickets and stamps it for the first 2 tours, he will explain this to you, that the ceilings are not right, the floors are not right, the ceilings are very low, the floors go in different angles. He kind of incorporated some of the trees, the landscaping that was in already on the property. Some of the trees grow through the house. Now, when you first go in, you go into this like a kitchen eating area, okay? And it's got like a small dining, a nice fireplace, very, very small kitchen. I mean, the refrigerator, I don't even think I saw a refrigerator, but I did see like an oven. And the oven was like about this big. I mean, you could tell that it was from either the 70s or late 60s. And the walkways are very narrow, so you want to be careful, especially if you're wearing shorts, because you can scrape your legs on these stones that are throughout the whole home. Now, the walkway is maybe like 1.5 feet, so there's enough area to walk. You cannot double up and walk side to side next to your friend or somebody else when you're going through this. So be very careful and be prepared to duck, because the ceilings, like I said, are very low. So let's go on with this.
And so began the House on the Rock, the first of many great dreams to spill forth from the mind of Alex Jordan and become reality. Join us as we learn a little more about the man behind the dream, and for a look inside this one-of-a-kind house. Jordan built the house as a weekend retreat and never intended it to be a tourist attraction. However, people kept coming to see the architectural wonder they'd heard about. Jordan eventually started asking for 50-cent donations. That was only the beginning. The 14-room house is the original structure of what is now a complex of many buildings, exhibits, and garden displays. Alex Jordan was a collector all his life and enjoyed visiting museums. However, he did not want the House on the Rock to be a museum. He intended it to be much more than that. It is said that Jordan was a collector of collections. Though parts of these collections could have easily found their way into museums, the House on the Rock is more of a trip through the wild and fantastic imagination of Alex Jordan than a visit to a dusty, lifeless museum. In December of 1988, Alex sold the House on the Rock to longtime associate Art Donaldson, a collector and a businessman who shared his broad interests. Alex remained at the House on the Rock as artistic director until his death on November 6, 1989. Art and Karen Donaldson continue to own the House on the Rock and build on Alex's dream of expanding and entertaining visitors from all over the world. Alex continues to be, in his own words, present but not voting. Visionary architecture, eclectic collections, and incredible stories await you at the House on the Rock attraction, Alex Jordan's imaginary, awe-inspiring, man-made retreat. The gatehouse serves as the entryway to the main house. Subdued lighting and ethnic artwork pervade throughout and sets the tone for the rest of the house, as does the Gatehouse Ensemble, the first of dozens of fantastic music machines that Jordan collected and created over the years. The ensemble is a virtually complete chamber orchestra, with the instruments mysteriously playing on their own. Many of Jordan's music machine collections are displayed throughout the attraction, including the rare Regina Sublima, built in 1893.
All right, so this is what I really was drawn into when I heard about this place, was all these machines that are playing these instruments. Now, as you see in this picture here, there is a red box next to the instrument or the machine or whatever that is a token box. So when you drop a token, inside it, those machines come to life. Now, upon purchase of your tour, either you get section 1, section 2, or section 3. The more tokens you get, the more sections you purchase. Now, what kind of like was a big disappointment in all this is that none of these machines are actually playing themselves. Now, this machine here in this photo, that is basically run off of a electric motor. You can hear the motor turn on when you drop the money or the token inside the box, and there is a disc that it plays off of. Okay, so that disc is that big round circle that you see on this machine. Now, the string instruments, which this was a very big disappointment. Now, I started noticing when we first passed this up, there's another one that you go into before you go into this big long hallway, which looks like it never ends. And it is, you see a drum, a couple of, a cymbal, you'll see a couple of tambourines, there is a guitar in the background, there's also a little door that covers the sound hole on the acoustic guitar. And I kind of stretched over the railing a little bit to get a closer look to see how this thing was working. Now, a lot of it is worked by air pressure. There's a lot of air lines that are connected to a lot of these servos or whatever you want to call them, that are basically pushing, fretting, and picking on these string instruments. They're not doing it. Okay, there is a speaker inside of a lot of these displays that is basically pointing your ears in the direction of those instruments. So say if there's guitars here and there's violins here and the violins start playing, there is a speaker in the location where the violins are that draws your ear to those violins. Also, they're very loud. Okay, so if those were being played naturally without a amplifier or anything to amplify them, they wouldn't be as loud as they are. The violins, nothing is plucking strings or sliding over strings. Some of these guitars and string instruments are missing strings. So everything is basically some type of either digital audio now. I don't know what they did back then, but a lot of these things aren't playing themselves. Even the player pianos that are supposed to be playing themselves, on one display that was a very large display, they had a section of guitars, section of basses, a section of violins, a section of cellos. There was a big grand piano in the center of this. There was a very large speaker underneath the grand piano. So that was kind of a disappointment, but let's go on.
And the Hupfeld, built in 1912 or 1913 in Germany, one of only 11 of this particular Hupfeld Phonolitzt model known to exist. Still standing high atop the 60-foot chimney called Deer Shelter Rock is where you'll find the original structure of the House on the Rock. Its canted windows are a unique feature of this strikingly innovative and contemporary design. Wood meets stone, meets glass, meets sky, in a harmonious interplay of texture and form. Each room in this fascinating house is more engrossing than the last. Every nook and cranny holds a new delight. Upon entering this architectural marvel, you are at once overwhelmed by its uniqueness. The flow of the rooms resembles that of a maze, as the contour of their rocky mantel was Jordan's only blueprint. At every turn, your gaze falls upon a display more unique than the one before. Slab slanted floors and carpeted walls are supports for Oriental art. All 13 rooms are linked by common elements and moods, from stained glass for a nighttime ambiance to the warmth and serenity of the sandstone fireplaces. There are 5 in all in this original structure alone. Jordan's huge collection of famed Bauer-Koebel stained glass lamps is perhaps one of the largest in the world. This one-of-a-kind mushroom lamp masterpiece stands 40 inches tall. In fact, in the early 1970s, Alex covered up all the windows in the house with blue window panes, inset with panels of intricately carved Shesham wood, to help create an evening ambiance to showcase his stunning collection of stained glass lamps. The 14th and final room of the house, the Infinity Room, was envisioned by Jordan in the 1940s and 4 decades later was completed in 1985.
All right, the Infinity Room, which was pretty cool. As you see in this photo, that there's a lot of plants and flowers and stuff. None of that was there when we went. In fact, this time of the year, even a lot of the gardens, the water features and everything has been turned off. Now, the Infinity Room was pretty cool. It's a very long hallway that narrows to a point at the end of it, giving you the effect of that this hallway goes on and on. Now, on each side of you, there is glass, which in this case, a lot of the displays, the glass has been removed and there's plexiglass now. Now, this one here, I noticed that a lot of the glass has been removed and it looks like it's plexiglass as well. Now, as you're walking through this, if there is a lot of people that are walking with you, this thing feels like it's swaying from side to side. Now, what really freaks you out is at the end of this long, narrow hallway, there is a picture window that you can look down upon, which you'll see in this video, which is pretty cool. The tour guide said, if you start feeling ill, stop looking, because a lot of people, I guess, because of this whole section swaying from side to side, people have become ill or dizzy or whatever from looking down. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of cool, and it's amazing how they built this structure to where there's really not too many supports that are holding it up.
The Infinity Room is an engineering marvel as it thrusts boldly out 218 feet over the scenic Wyoming Valley towards Percussion Rock. The Infinity Room seemingly goes on forever. There are an astounding 3,264 panes of glass, offering a breathtaking view of the rolling countryside, which Alex loved so much. A glass table provides visitors with a breathtaking view of the forest floor 156 feet below. From the beginning, the attention of visitors is drawn to the incredible numbers of objects that combine to create the mind-boggling, inspiring, intriguing effect that is the House on the Rock. It's said that Alex Jordan desired to give the curiosity seekers who bought a ticket an experience they could not acquire anywhere else in the world. And indeed, that is what he ultimately achieved. The attraction has room after countless room of some of the world's most unique collections, which have amazed visitors for years. Display boxes with the intricate, the large and unusual, the loud and thundering, the bright and colorful, all inspired, of course, by Alex Jordan. The Mill House is the first building Alex added after the house and the gatehouse were completed. The Mill House contains one of the world's largest fireplaces and a glimpse of some of Alex's special collections, including dolls, suits of armor, antique guns, and mechanical banks. Everywhere you glance, there are new delights for the eye, including an entire wall of fragile glassware in the ladies' lounge. One thing you may notice while visiting is that the restrooms at the House on the Rock offer a taste of what you'll see on the tours. It has become somewhat of a tradition that the restrooms are all the talk at the attraction. And what is starting to become quite common is that a woman or man grabs who they are with to sneak a peek into the other's restroom. As you step inside the streets of yesterday, you see a stunning recreation of a 19th century street. You're instantly transported back in time, long before shopping malls, parking meters, and fast food was the norm. You find yourself in a period when streets were paved with red brick, when life seemed to have a slower and gentler pace. Everywhere you look, from architecture to artifact, the attention to detail is astounding. Authentic reproductions of shops, offices, municipal buildings, and homes are yours to peek inside and remember, or to study of what life was like back in the early 1900s.
All right, so sorry to interrupt your tour, but I want to throw in a few things. Now, this is a very, very big building, okay? On the outside, it doesn't look like it. They make the video makes it look like that there is a lot of space and a lot of room. There actually isn't. These little houses and stuff that are in this old-time town, they're tiny. They're not very large at all. And basically, it's just like a one-room type of a thing. You cannot go inside of it. You're basically looking through windows. And again, the windows are all plexiglass. Nothing is really glass anymore. They cramped so much stuff into one small space. You basically see all of it at one time, so you're moving on to the next display. And I think that's the way that they meant it to be. That way you're constantly moving from one display to another display, letting the other people look as well. So let's get back to this.
More than 200 model ship displays, an 18-foot model Titanic display, and a 200-foot sea creature grab your attention as soon as you enter the Heritage of the Sea building. Longer than the Statue of Liberty is tall, the sea creature towers above you in a coiled rage, fighting with an enormous octopus. The room is filled with the colorful sounds of the Octopus's Garden music machine. You'll see an entire maritime collection of replica sailing vessels and ships that have done battle with both men and the sea. An overflowing abundance of nostalgic items from yesteryear await your journey through the Tribute of Nostalgia. Overhead, a squad of fanciful hot air balloons surveys the scene below, which includes unique automotive marvels.
All right, so the vehicle that you're looking at right now, with whatever that big red thing is, that vehicle is no longer on the display. But one vehicle that is, if you look at the picture off to the, let's see, if I move this way, it's off to the left. There is it's a Lincoln. It's an old Lincoln. And that Lincoln has suicide doors in the back. Now, that whole car the body's been tiled over. I mean, like literally like house tile. In fact, the tile that was used, the pattern of it, is the same tile that I had in my upstairs bathroom. Exception of that tile is blue, ours was white. Now, I did kind of look around the car. They had it in a different area, and there was no like fencing to stop you from touching the car. I popped the hood on it. There was a little latch underneath the front, and I popped it just to see if there was an engine in it. And sure as shit, there was an engine. But that tile on that hood is very, very heavy. I know I probably wasn't supposed to touch it like that, but I had, curiosity. So let's get on.
And horse-drawn wagons. Towering above the floor exhibit stands a multi-story Rube Goldberg machine running through a series of inventive, intricate motions. A theatrical production of grand proportion awaits your journey through the music of yesterday. Beginning in the theater lobby, you are first welcomed by smaller music machines.
All right, so this is where it became pretty disappointing. Now, it is pretty cool to see a bunch of instruments playing themselves. Now, the problem with this is none of the string instruments were actually being plucked as far as the mechanical device that was operating them. They were speakers that were producing the sound for them. In this particular display, the saxophone, I ended up putting 2 tokens inside the machine, and the saxophone, I don't know what was going on with the air pressure on there, but man, did it make a loud screeching sound. And I don't know if there was too much air pressure, not enough air pressure, or whatever it was to operate it, but yeah, this is where it starts getting disappointing.
Along the way, you'll see special shops and displays, from early optometrists' fancy paraphernalia, an early espresso bar, to a dentist's office with a foot-powered drill. You'll enjoy room after room of some of the most amazing grand music machines you'll ever see, from the overpowering oriental music of Mikado, to the Vienna-style waltz of the Blue Danube, to Alex Jordan's grand finale, The Red Room. Looking up at the spirit of aviation, you'll see a sky of model airplanes representing advances in aviation from World War II through the 1960s. The exhibit features important moments in the history of aviation, with articles and photos of historic milestones to present-day aviation news, as well as a nostalgic 1950s airfield cafe. Words can hardly describe the mythic menagerie that is the world's largest carousel. It took Alex Jordan 10 years to plan and construct this one-of-a-kind carousel that carries 269 fanciful handcrafted animals. It's 80 feet across, 35 feet tall, and weighs 36 tons. More than 20,000 lights and 182 chandeliers adorn this extraordinary carousel, a true world wonder. The fanciful carousel animals really make it a work of art, and it's odd that you'll not find one horse on Jordan's Miracle Carousel. Almost as strange, adorning a nearby wall, Jordan hung more than 200 traditional carousel horses.
So here's a little bit of a fun fact. Years ago, those angels that you see on the ceiling basically had no clothes on. And there are painted nipples and, certain features that were painted on those mannequins, the angels, whatever. And there are a few other ones in different areas too, as well. Some of them don't have clothes. But I guess somebody complained years ago about how the angels were a little bit too detailed. And so now, currently, and in this video, they have clothing on.
Many of these coming from small circuses that once toured the rural Midwest, and restored by the House on the Rock staff. The organ room is so huge and full of wonders, you'll feel as though you're wandering in an alternate universe. Alex Jordan's plans for this exhibit changed several times from its original conception, each vision more grand than the last. But people who knew Alex Jordan will tell you it has everything he originally stated, and that the ultimate blueprint was all in his head. There are 3 gigantic organs, complete with rank upon rank of towering pipes. With spiral staircases, catwalks, and 13 bridges, you can explore multiple levels and angles in this vast assemblage. You'll see enormous hydraulic machinery, a custom-built 45-foot-tall perpetual motion clock, and the giant drum tree that sends snares and kettles soaring skyward in a glittering panoply of percussion. After being amazed in the organ room, visitors then find time to relax at Inspiration Point, which offers towering windows and awe-inspiring views of both the House on the Rock and the Infinity Room. You can journey along the walkway that provides an impressive new perspective of the Infinity Room from below. As your journey continues at the House on the Rock, the Dollhouse Collection will be the next fascination you'll encounter. Alex Jordan's Dollhouse Collection quite possibly is one of the largest collections in the world. More than 250 dollhouses in all, with amazingly detailed artistry. Each dwelling is detailed as near to what a real house would be. The individual dollhouses in this fine collection represent many architectural styles, ranging from colonial to Victorian, and nearly everything in between. In the Circus Building, you're ringside at the greatest show on Earth, the world's largest collection of miniature circuses, over 1 million pieces in all, from the big tops, parade wagons, circus trains, sideshows, bands, calliopes, and even rapt audiences packing the bleachers. Every piece is meticulously detailed and crafted exactly to scale. This scene is just one of dozens of panoramas of big top life at the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus. And only in Jordan fashion, the big show is topped off with a life-size pyramid of elephants and 50 life-size mannequins in exotic costumes brought to this country from Yugoslavia, a country steeped in circus tradition. You'll also see the world's most complete collection of Behringer Motions, clever little automated displays that used to appear in jewelry store windows from the 1920s through the 1950s. And to top it all off, the entire circus scene really comes to life when the band starts playing. A 40-piece circus band accompanied by a full 80-piece orchestra. Everything from ivories to armories you'll find in the galleries. To describe the galleries as a collection of collections, though accurate, falls woefully short of giving each collection its due. Any single display here might justify a special visit. The weapons collection showcases hundreds of antique and unusual firearms, many of them one of a kind. The Oriental collection is simply astounding, with precious treasures from the Far East ranging from delicate miniatures to larger-than-life sculptures. The Armor collection presents suits of armor for both man and beast in stirring battle dioramas. And the lavish Crown Jewel collection proves without a doubt that all that glitters is not gold. You'll find more of it than you've ever imagined among the galleries. Big dolls, tiny dolls, dolls afoot, and on horseback. Welcome to the Doll Carousel Room. 2 colorful carousels whirl with head-turning beauties. A massive and widely varied collection of Alex Jordan. Each doll has been immaculately and imaginatively costumed and accessorized. It's a never-ending parade as the tall carousels slowly turn to present you with a stunning promenade. The House on the Rock, the grand vision of Alex Jordan, who believed that sights and sounds were the most effective means of stimulating the senses. Room after room of some of the world's most unique and eclectic collections, each filled with the exotic, the majestic, and the unexpected. The House on the Rock maintains a large container garden with well over 100,000 plants in all, including landscape plantings, flower beds, and potted plants. About 275 varieties are represented, with half of those unknown elsewhere in the Midwest. Huge strawberry pots with sculpted lizards and dragons clinging to the sides were inspired by some of China's national treasures and were one of Jordan's favorite garden containers. His inspiration was a Mexican-style pot his mother owned when he was growing up. Years later, he incorporated that memory into his garden sculptures. Some pots reach 20 feet. New to the House on the Rock is the Japanese Gardens and the Zen Dry Garden. The Japanese Gardens is authentic in every detail, from Turtle Island and a number of waterfalls to the koi in the pond. The waterfall in the middle is the Dragon Falls. The stone the water hits below is a carp stone, which represents students who are striving to achieve and trying to jump up the falls. In the Zen Dry Garden, things change from the peacefulness of the sound of falling water in the Japanese garden to just having the rustling of a few leaves in the quiet Zen Dry Garden. It's a beautiful place for contemplation and meditation. Yes, indeed, it was Alex Jordan who tended to believe that more is not enough. With each addition to his grand vision, he wanted his guests to question his creation, to come to their own conclusions, to turn his world of dreams into their own. He created an attraction that would impress, exhilarate, and amaze all who saw it. Thank you for watching.
All right, so due to the time of year that it was, really none of the garden was in bloom, and a lot of the water features were basically turned off, being somewhat of a very, very early spring. Now, your eyes and your ears would be more directed towards the actual building and all the stuff that they have to look at and listen to. Now, I was a little disappointed, actually a lot disappointed, in seeing that a lot of the musical instruments, especially the string instruments, were not really playing themselves. The mechanics were working, but the actual plucking of the strings was not. A lot of the string instruments were missing strings, but I could see why they would put a speaker in those locations rather than keeping the upkeep on those instruments. It probably costs a lot of money to keep everything up in tune and replacing strings. Now, it is a 3-hour tour. Why does that sound familiar? But anyways, it is quite a bit of walking, and they should have made it a way that this could be, wheelchair accessible. There are a lot of narrow areas. There is a lot of uneven ground. There is a lot of, and this is inside. And for anyone who is handicapped or wheelchair bound, there's really, it's really hard for those people to really see this. And I really feel that for everyone to enjoy this, I really feel that people who with disabilities and handicapped and who are in wheelchairs should be able to view this as well. This is pretty interesting. There's a lot more that wasn't in this video that I feel should have been in this video, but if you really want to find out what that is, then I recommend you go to this place. Again, with the housekeeping part of this and the low ceilings and stuff, that's up to you. Just be aware that there are very low ceilings and things are pretty dusty. So that's my little review of this House on the Rock. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.